del autor publicado en Harvard, Business Week, TechCrunch, VentureBeat y GigaOM. Es Larry Young.
cs183e Lecture 16 is about DJing, like disc jockeying, DJing in a chasm. DJing in a chasm. And what you're trying to do is you're realizing that your chasm that you're working on, your innovation chasm, does not exist in a vacuum, and that you can DJ it and connect it to the energy of someone else's momentum having crossed a chasm. DJing in a chasm. In the same way that DJs used to play one song after another song ended, that's a similar innovation to what we're doing with this chasm, where we're actually going to use the beats and the melodies and the momentum of a previous chasm cross. So your innovation chasm is definitely not alone. You're definitely not alone in that there is previous energy that we can leverage. VCs call it, and this is an offshoot for cs183s VC, which is timing. And VCs talk about joining a parade and not starting a parade. So the reason you're editing this cadaver is there wasn't a large enough of a parade. And what's great about parades, to stay with this metaphor, is that there are parades, there is momentum and energy all around us. And if you look at this slide that Paul Graham drew, which is what Altair Basic, is this the Microsoft of? Write that down because it's an incredibly important and poignant and relevant essay. What Altair Basic is this the Microsoft of? Because what Paul Graham mentors you but doesn't himself realize is that what crockpot dinners is this the Y Combinator of? Meaning they did crockpot dinners, and that eventually grew to the Tuesday night legendary lecture series where they bring in speakers to mentor founders. And it's actually replicated in CS183B as in boy, how to start a startup. The Tuesday night lecture series was prequeled by what crockpot dinner is this eventually going to be Y Combinator, because they would do crockpot dinners, it wouldn't be catered, and they would do it in Cambridge. So there's an energy that's a prequel that most successful people don't even realize that they are themselves a sequel. And that's what DJing in an innovation chasm is. That's what connecting your chasm to another chasm, that's the crux of lecture 16 CS183E for edit. What Duck 9 is this the hashtag Amex Duck 9 to? There's a picture of this Asian kid with a slice of pizza at a Salesforce conference, and he's presenting it as if it's the end-all be-all answer. And that's what Duck 9 did. It handed out slices of pizza to get people curious about augmenting, raising, and fixing, and raising and improving their FICO credit score. So a slice of pizza would be exchanged for a cell phone number. A slice of pizza would be exchanged for a lead. And that's what this kid's doing at Salesforce, because it works with college undergrads and college co-eds. It also works with executives. It being handing out a slice of pizza to get people curious, because apathy runs rampant. Bicycles, it used to be innovative. 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 BC, whatever. That chasm was something that actually powered the crossing of the chasm for airplane flight, where some people at the time probably thought that if man were meant to fly, God would have given man wings. So that sounds like a naysayer. That sounds like a person who's anti-innovation. So what powered that innovation was the adoption of bicycles and actually the selling of bicycles and the retained earnings from selling bikes
at 1307 West 3rd Street, which is where the Wright brothers sold bicycles. So that's literally the most clear example of DJing two innovation chasms together, where the bicycle chasm, having been crossed, powers, aero engineering pun intended, powers airplane flight. Okay, there's an innovation of SAT prep, and now it's become ubiquitous where every parent, if they've got a pulse, will plop down a couple $100 to make sure that their kid gets a higher SAT score. So that's a given, okay? That's Main Street, literally, because there's a SAT, ACT test prep center literally in every downtown of any small town. And what Duck 9 did is it leveraged that chasm. In fact, Doug Becker is a mentor, getting college students to think about preparing their FICO credit card credit score. Used to be innovative, but when it was super innovative, we would just say, oh, it's Duck 9, prepare your FICO score, in the same way that you prepared your SAT. And then the light bulb would click on and be like, oh, some parents don't just spend $200, some parents spend $2,000 or $20,000. A huge factorial, because I guess an SAT is important if you're not an all-state student athlete. I'm serious, an SAT score is super important. So you would prepare and raise your SAT score. Well, we made the argument at Duck 9 that a credit score is just as important, if not more important, than an SAT score. So why don't you spend money, time, treasure to try to prepare your FICO score? So that's how Duck 9's connecting the chasm of, oh, it's super innovative, to now prepare for a standardized test called the SAT. Now in, oh, let's prepare your credit score so that way we save money on the largest expense in our life, interest. Can you tell some of these sales pitches are pretty well honed? That's what you want to do with DJing in another chasm. So TechCrunch is reporting that the ChickFilA app is #1 in the App Store. How did they get to #1 app status? Did they think that ordering a chicken sandwich or a hamburger or whatever they sell at Chick-fil-A is super innovative, where you order it on your app and then you pick it up at the Chick-fil-A? No, that's not they got to be #1 in the innovation chasm because everybody who downloaded the app would get a free sandwich. So you use the app to get a free sandwich. That's literally the Shalom Bao technique that my grandfather used. That's literally the slice of pizza hack sales trick, growth hacking method of giving away a slice of pizza. That's literally giving away a fluffy duck in sales premiums. If you didn't memorize lecture 15 and the use of sales premiums and second stage premiums, go back and watch that, because Chick-fil-A got into TechCrunch, which I guess is a pretty cool blog, using the app using a chicken sandwich to stimulate downloads of the app. DJing two chasms. This is the Chick-fil-A tweet where you can get a free sandwich by using the hashtag CFA1, Chick-fil-A 1, CFA1. If you hashtag tweet it CFA1, they ping you back with like a link to download. Why do they do this? I swear, because old people can't find where the App Store is. That's what I did with Uber, if you remember, in hashtag cs183e Uber, where I printed out my referral code and would text people that would actually try to telephone call an Uber. So you try to telephone call an Uber, I would text you back the code to download an Uber, because that's how an app works, is you gotta find it in the App Store. And then we would tell people, hey, go download it in the App Store, because we assume that you understand how basic technology works. Old people would actually run around and say, oh, I looked up the App Store in the Yellow Pages and I couldn't find it. So we'd send them a link via text message, which old people are starting to text now, they would click open the link and it would automatically open in the App Store, and it would automatically include the referral code, and it would automatically elicit trust because Uber would walk people through that process. There's a core answer called how much money do I make as an Uber driver? It's more lead gen. So you're literally connecting up two chasms. Text message, that innovation chasm has been crossed, and Uber, which is sort of crossed. Chick-fil-A is using the innovation chasm of a sandwich, which was crossed in 400 BC. The Romans would put meat between their bread and call it a sandwich. And it was innovative because the meat wouldn't just get on your hands. So Chick-fil-A then, in 2016, would then use the free sandwich to get you to download their app. Okay, so this is a picture of the fox from the Pixar movie Zootopia. The fox is built out of Legos. And when you're talking about editing, you're really trying to fix Humpty Dumpty because he sat on a wall, he took a small fall, and all the king's horses, men and horses and dogs couldn't put Humpty Dumpty back together again. I may not memorize and regurgitate the Humpty Dumpty riddle rhyme children's thing, but I have been able to regurgitate the fact that this DJing the chasm works. So here you've got a bunch of pieces that are Lego that you can realize that that's a mess. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to put the pieces back together again. And the Lego movie, was actually genius because the monster at the end, he would glue the pieces together so that way builders couldn't rebuild. But if you think about it, the builder, who's the gluer, who's Will Ferrell, sorry if you haven't seen the Lego movie, just spoiled the plot. Will Ferrell's character, he's a big monster. He actually glues the Lego pieces after the builders build. If you go to a Lego store and you ask for a Millennium Falcon already built, because they show you the end product. This picture is a picture of all the Lego pieces broken. Nobody wants to buy a bag of broken bricks that are not pre-assembled. Would you like a Millennium Falcon in a billion pieces, or would you like it perfectly constructed with glue? Would you like the fox, and I'm going to show you the next slide, which is the fox perfectly assembled. Would you like the fox in a pile of bricks on the ground and say, hey, go ahead and assemble? Or would you like the fox perfectly assembled and glued? That's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to look at how ludicrous the majority of other people who are trying to do a startup, and we are trying to gain the energy of a Lego movie. We're trying to gain the energy of the innovative things that have previously been done. Now it's going to be focusing that editing energy into helping resuscitate that cadaver that we're practicing on. Heard of Groupon? Well, Groupon used to be the point, and that one awesome slide of let's polish up our turds and get super rich, that was lecture 15. Coupons is what Andrew Mason leveraged with the point and pivoting the point, or really you could call it pivoting, but what Andrew Mason really did is he DJ'd in a previous chasm that was crossed with the entertainment coupon book. So entertainment coupon book, the business model is this: you buy a coupon book for $60, sometimes discounted to $50, and there's a bunch of half price deals. So they would make money selling you the coupon book, and they would also make money selling the 2-for-1 deal, or the 50% off. In Chicago and in the Midwest, people love these coupon books. And we saw them, and Andrew Mason is from Chicago, went to Northwestern, and would, instead of doing super innovative fundraising, such as let's try to build a dome over Chicago, if the money isn't all there, then this deal isn't on, meaning they don't collect the money. So they would just transfer that to, are 500 people interested in a half price deal at Gold Coast Multiplex? or Lakeshore Athletic Club, or Morton's, or the Sandwich Shop, whatever, Chicago institution, La Bamba. Creepy, right? Yeah, I fake like I'm a Chicagoan all the time. So Andrew Mason took the energy of entertainment coupon books and then connected it to Groupon, doing one-time deals, loading it on a WordPress blog post. If you haven't seen Polish Up Your Turd, that one slide is summing up cs183e. So to reiterate, Andrew Mason took the innovation of a coupon, which was adopted years ago, to the innovation of doing the point, which is getting to a critical mass of people who are interested in half-price La Bamba burritos on Tuesday, whatever random thing that they were doing. So the energy of a coupon, Chasm crossed to the innovation of doing half-price promotion things called Groupon, which spawned a ton of competitors. Movies crossed the chasm, and that's what Plancast was hoping, and that's what Plancast unknowingly became. So this is what Plancast was. You can read the postmortem. The postmortem is the uber chic blog post where the founder of a company yields and goes into startup bankruptcy or dies or quits and writes a postmortem. So in this postmortem, Mark Hendrickson would then say, oh, the difficulties of social calendaring, where how me and Mark eventually sold Plancast at a huge profit was this. We DJ'd the chasm of movies. So everyone loves a movie, and people still to this day have a hard time remembering what weekend is the opening weekend of an upcoming film. That's what Plancast was going to leverage. Social calendaring, people feel shy, people feel like they need to be invited, people feel weird stuff about going to social events. So Plancast had some challenges, it didn't quite go viral. So DJing in another chasm, movies. So having Plancast solely focused on charging studios movie advertising releases. So you would plan for a future weekend and load it up on Plancast, so that way the movie studio could accept RSVPs and build momentum for their opening weekend. If a movie doesn't open properly, that movie's dead. So that's what Plancast did, is it leveraged the fact that movies had crossed the innovation chasm, and it became a solo purpose. What Altair Basic is this the Microsoft of? Well, what Plancast is this the Plancast movie launching platform of? So that's DJing into chasms. That's the what Duck9 is this the hashtag Amex Duck9 of? This is the what crockpot dinner is this the eventual Y Combinator of? So realizing that Plancast was actually a sequel to movies. I know, your noodle's just baked and your head's going to explode right now, right? Because movies oftentimes have sequels. And some sequels are actually prequels. Some prequels come out after the sequel because the prequel goes into, oh, how did Batman start? That's what you want to do with this cadaver that you're practicing on, is to realize that your sequel is actually a prequel, and that even though you're not business related to an entity such as movie making, you're still a sequel to movies. Just like the ADT picture that was in that very first slide that you want to go back and look to. Looks like a stop sign. Maybe I'll get Fernando to load up that ADT slide, because you're leveraging the innovation of using home security for your random security app. Confused? Go back and re-watch this. I swear this makes sense on a fifth viewing. A lot of times entrepreneurs have kindred spirits, people that you immediately glum to and have this deep connection with. That was my connection with Doug Becker. He started Sylvan Learning Systems. He was co-CEO. Sylvan Learning Systems has some new name to raise PE. But initially it was test prep and not FICO curriculum. Do you see I just slipped? Freudian slip. It's not a Freudian slip, it's an entrepreneurial slip. SAT prep, which I then used for FICO prep. So Doug Becker started Sylvan Learning, and he saw it as an education company. Duck 9 tackled financial literacy, and the way that we tackled it was we got rid of two things: the finance and the literacy. We just turned it into a second stage premium, initial premium. So initially you get the pizza, and later on you get more pizza, and then later on you get a nice $300 bonus for having reached a FICO score of 800, because guess what? Ding, 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 ding. You're worth thousands of dollars because you're a young person under 25, but sometimes under 20, with a FICO score of 800. I mean, how many of those special people do you think there are in this world? Very valuable. So that's the DJing of SAT prep. Now to FICO score prep. Now, if you name the founder, oftentimes the founder did a stint through tutoring. Travis Kalanick, have you heard of Uber? He had an SAT prep class. Is your mind blown yet? If you're editing, DJing in that other innovation chasm. Not to sound like Bruce Lee, but you want to fill the innovation chasm, you want to fill it in. There's a gap, okay? I've showed in numerous pictures how the cigar-shaped object goes right in. Now, not to sound like Bruce Lee, but he would fill it with water. He would fill it with donuts. He would fill it with xiaolong bao. He would fill it with water. Bruce Lee famously said, you want to resist like water. Why is Bruce Lee used to be innovative, where he did a bunch of innovative stuff, and now people use him for everything. Car commercial, selling smartphones. The images are open source, so I'm able to talk about Bruce Lee and how he would resist like water. So connecting up the energy of a previous thing absolutely helps you. Sun Tzu, he wrote The Art of War. So I'm saying you want to beat back your fear of selling. You want to beat back your fear of promotion in the front lines. And you want to startle your VC. Sun Tzu said you want to beat the trees to startle the snake. And snake and VC, very similar, because a VC lies literally as a snake in the grass, and then he offers you all this money, and then there's all these terms like, oh, if you don't sell super well, I'm going to fire you. That's why you're practicing on this cadaver right now, is because the VC fired the founders and they went a yard sale. Yard sale, everyone left, the stock is pretty much worthless, and there's going to have to be a VC undertaker. His name is Marty Pitchinson. There's only one dude in Silicon Valley, Marty Pitchinson. His name autofills on Google. He's the undertaker because VCs kind of do this a lot. That's why we're editing this startup, because Sun Tzu realizes, and he wants you to realize, that you can win the wars that you are not involved with. So you want to edit and get a win because you didn't start that startup. You're just getting the accolades for having edited and improved it ever so slightly. Sun Tzu, The Art of War. Sun Tzu, he wrote The Art of War. So I'm saying you want to beat back your fear of selling. You want to beat back your fear of promotion in the front lines. And you want to startle your VC. Sun Tzu said you want to beat the trees to startle the snake. And snake and VC, very similar, because a VC lies literally as a snake in the grass, and then he offers you all this money, and then there's all these terms like, oh, if you don't sell super well, I'm going to fire you. That's why you're practicing on this cadaver right now, is because the VC fired the founders and they went a yard sale. Yard sale, everyone left, the stock is pretty much worthless, and there's going to have to be a VC undertaker. His name is Marty Pitchinson. There's only one dude in Silicon Valley, Marty Pitchinson. His name autofills on Google. He's the Undertaker because VCs kind of do this a lot. That's why we're editing this startup, because Sun Tzu realizes, and he wants you to realize, that you can win the wars that you are not involved with. So you want to edit and get a win because you didn't start that startup. You're just getting the accolades for having edited and improved it ever so slightly. Sun Tzu, The Art of War. Not to sound like Confucius, but when you're doing a startup, don't dig two chasms. Leverage the previous chasm so that way you don't die in a little pit. Confucius talks famously about when you're seeking revenge, dig two graves. Well, when you're seeking a startup, not realizing that there's two chasms is going to kill your startup dead. If you just think that there's the one chasm that you're trying to cross, you're not going to actually try to jump down. Look at the sequence of books in The Fifth Epiphany. 4 Steps to the Epiphany, Jeffrey Moore's Crossing the Chasm. What they don't teach you at Harvard Business School, Lean Startup. Gear Up by Tom Kosnick. The fact that Confucius wants you to realize that there's two innovation chasms, not just one. You don't want to dig a second one. You want to just lever the previous work so that way your chasm is not something that you're going to die in. Not to sound like Charlemagne, but I'm going to sound like Charlemagne. Charlemagne famously said, I want the earth, the wind, the trees, and the birds to be my allies. Meaning he wanted to be aware of his surroundings. Was it winter? Was it raining? Was it dawn? Was it dusk? Are we attacking? Are we retreating? So Charlemagne realized as a third generation general, which is also unheard of. His father, Pippin the Great, grandfather, sequence of great emperors, great leaders, culminated in Charlemagne. And what Charlemagne wants you to realize is that there is a chasm that is in the environment that potentially you are not cognizant of, potentially you are not aware of. Most likely, if you're editing this chasm, if you're editing this startup, if you're trying to rescue this cadaver, the reason it's a cadaver is they only thought about the one chasm. They were so focused on themselves, they didn't see that there's this previous work that they could have just tidal waved. That's what EUTWM PPM. People are gonna, right now I get it, you're curious, you think CS183 is awesome. But then you're gonna read some stuff that's super negative about me, Larry Chang. You're gonna hear stuff like, oh, I hate guacamole. But guess what? EUTWM PPM works. And it's a guacamole recipe, which, tongue twister. It's not a tongue twister. EUTWM PPM is about DJing up the energy of a previous chasm. Engineering, it's a hashtag. Write this hashtag down. People hate it because it sounds like I'm saying guacamole and I'm joking, but literally, engineering up a tidal wave of momentum, perpetual promotion machine. So this guacamole recipe helps a previous chasm push and empower and help you act and execute like Charlemagne.
They're just a standard that's above in all cases.
If you electronically switched the uniforms and played that at full speed, you would not have been able to tell who was who.
Michael looks over at us and said, he can't guard me.
Kobe looks over at Doug Collins and said, this guy cannot guard me.
This man, when you think about Michael Jordan, the closest to get to Michael has been Kobe Bryant.
Can't we just agree that these guys are like phenomenal players and let's just move on? We got to do the one-on-one battle, huh?
We got to do it.
Okay, so the video that you just watched is proof positive that Kobe Bryant crossed the chasm by seeing the innovations that Michael Jordan did. There's this movie called The Muse, and in it, Kobe Bryant mentions very specifically mentors. And I track all the mentors that he mentioned in this index called MMPPI, Mentor Mentions Per Press Interview. So if Kobe Bryant, a basketball player who I don't know if he went to Harvard or Stanford, I don't think he went to either, if he's able to cross the chasm using a previous innovator's work to help him develop his body of work, don't you think you should rewatch and watch maybe for the first time the movie by Gautam Chopra, The Muse? Gautam's movie, it's about Kobe Bryant and the Muse. A muse is a person who gets you to think innovatively and to execute. And hopefully from 16 awesome lectures for cs183e, I don't want to be your muse, but I hope that my mentor, Steve Blank, my mentor, Mark McCormack, my mentor, Tom Kosnick, my mentor, Eric Rees, I hope that these different people, especially Mark McCormack, I hope that these people are able to help you realize that crossing the chasm is very possible. I also want to thank Steven Zumdahl. He came up with, he mentored me on activation energy, helped me graduate #1 in starting salary being in technical sales for Nalco. Steven Zumdahl, he also wrote the chemistry book. A lot of the concepts I use for entrepreneurship, and this is why the chasm made so much sense to me, which other people are still trying to digest this 1991 book, is I was able to understand technical graphs and acid-base titration, and I would like to very much thank Steven Zumdahl.